Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm Ben. To do a Chaser's review of Kathryn Bigelow's 1995 cult film, Strange Days. Strange Days has remained my all-time favorite film for nearly 15 years, dethroning ones that have held the top spot for a long time before it, such as Aliens and True Romance. Longevity is usually what keeps my favorite films at the top of the list. Directed by none other than Oscar-winning Kathryn Bigelow, there was a lot of debate about the excessive use of violence, especially against women in this film. There was a mild controversy concerning some very disturbing, yet key scenes in the film that may have contributed to this film's total failure at the box office. Yes, the same woman that gave us The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, and another old early 90s classic, Point Break, made a critical and financial dud. Looking back, it's easy to see that it may have been a little bit ahead of its time. To me, this film embodies everything a filmmaker should strive for. It's beautifully shot, orchestrating all different new types of camera angles, jibs, and for the time, a newly crafted Steadicam shot. Apparently, they built a brand new harness just for that opening 5-minute scene. The opening scene in this film is all POV, point of view, and it's enough to hook just about anybody directly into the plot. You gasp for air at least 3 times in the first 5 minutes of this film. And as well as it is shot, it's editor Howard Smith that glues the film together. He's a genius, and at one point a longtime collaborator with Kathryn Bigelow. Not entirely sure why they haven't worked together in a long time. Aside from the technical aspects of the way the film is shot, edited, it's also put together one of the best soundtracks from the 90s, which ranks up there right along with other 90s classic soundtracks like The Crow, Pulp Fiction, Batman Forever. It uses these tracks instead of a big daunting score to not only progress the scenes forward, but to evoke emotion right at critical moments, and they're all placed perfectly within the context of it. Scene for scene, everything just works in this film. From the intriguing premise and backstory to the neo-noir look of a modern 1999, though the film was shot in 94. It's always interesting to see what people's perception of a few years down the road will look like. Strange Days has a very cutthroat approach to the violence and the mayhem, and let's not forget the complicated yet engaging murder mystery going on throughout. The premise isn't entirely easy to explain. It revolves around a former police officer named Lenny Nero, played brilliantly and balanced to perfection by Ray Fiennes, as he's fallen on hard times and become a pusher of an FBI-based technology now on the black market that records one's senses during particular experiences and is able to transfer those senses back into another's brain when wearing it. They call it wire tripping or jacking in. This stuff is brilliant. Wire tripping or jacking in refers to what's known as the squid, a piece of FBI technology used for surveillance and interrogation known as SQUID, superconducting quantum interference device. As it's hooked to your brain, it records your senses, your sight, your hearing, your sense of smell, and everything you're feeling at the moment. It all gets recorded to a disc, and once that disc is played for someone else, they are now experiencing that piece of your life.
Are you beginning to see the possibilities here?
The mystery begins when a controversial hip-hop artist is murdered in cold blood on the streets of LA, when Lenny, ex-girlfriend, played a bit spacey but still confident by Juliette Lewis, appears to be in a troublesome relationship with the hip-hop artist's manager. Lenny's best friend Mace, a super beefed-up Angela Bassett, a security driver and complete badass, tells Lenny to let it go and move on before it gets too dangerous. As Lenny is still in love with his ex-girlfriend, he refuses, and things get more and more insane the closer they get to New Year's Eve 2000. The movie's backdrop is one of the key strong points of the film. Setting it on the eve of 2000 creates a whole other set of tension and intrigue. There's rioting in the streets as cops work around the clock to contain what's happening. It's not just a simple plot device created to give it gimmick. It's much more than that. The amazing amazing screenplay written by Bigelow's husband at the time, James, we all know him and love him, Cameron, was at the top of his game when he wrote this, and detailed an unbelievable, surreal script that truly is an original piece of work. There's many supporting characters in this film who have moments to shine. No character is misused or not given enough screen time. Characters like the psychotic cop played by Vincent D'Onofrio, Lenny's old pal who reemerges from the past played by Tom Sizemore, and one of my favorite underappreciated actors from the 90s, Michael Wincott, as the sleazy Philo. These characters are all just used perfectly and peppered in throughout the story. Does the movie have issues? Honestly, none that I can see, unless you're one who faults films for feeling too much of their own time and place. I wouldn't call this film dated as much as I would call it a time capsule of its era. The wild, surreal, fantasy style used by Bigelow keeps the film grounded in its own version of the world at the time it takes place. It has the retro 90s feel to it. There were talks of a studio version of the film that toned down the violence, had a safer script, and had a lighter feel to it. Thank God Bigelow released the version that came out. I don't think the violence is excessive, not by my own terms anyway. The violence is used to progress the story, and it's not a showcase of see what we can do with blood and guts. It's used when necessary, and given the context of the story, helps things rather than hurt the overall outcome of the film. This is not your grandmother's action sci-fi noir film. This film is gritty, brutal, smart, sexy, well acted, and downright awesome. This film's gained a smaller cult following since its release on DVD, but it never got the appreciation it deserved upon initial release. Perhaps it was ahead of its time. I believe that the film is so involved and so inventive and so original that the studios literally had no idea how to market it right. I remember seeing the very first teaser trailer that they put out for this, and it was literally just Ray Fiennes' face on close-up shouting out a bunch of things that no one understood. It's not until you finally see it that you really get how special it is and how engaging it is. The lighting, the shots, the sets, all the practical effects, the stunt work, the color scheme that Bigelow used, it all just works so brilliantly. The photography in this film is crisp, clean, and vigorously lit. Howard Smith helped perfect what's known as the split edit.
Just tell me, just save us some time. Tell me what you know.
Just what I've read, that the technology was developed for the feds to replace the body wire, and now it's gone black market.
That's right, so this conversation is not taking place, okay?
You're damn right it's not.
His editing helped pace this film out and create its dreamlike state, as well as its intense action set pieces. Strange Days is a surreal experience to sit through. It's one of those films that you really do have to follow. All the characters are engaging and interesting. There are a few you know are despicable, and a few that you really are rooting for. This was a really good time in cinema history where people were pushing boundaries for themes such as racism, abuse of power, crooked systems, crooked police, and it really blends all those themes together and makes a classic action, sci-fi, film noir mystery for the ages. If you've never seen Strange Days or haven't seen it in a long time and remember not enjoying it or just forgetting about it, give it another look. I know this is not everyone's favorite film. To be honest with you, it's sort of an unconventional pick, but to me, it hit all the right chords. While watching this film, as an editor myself, I see its strong points. It covers a 3-day period of time leading up to the New Year's of 2000, and not a beat is skipped. The pacing is great. Catherine Bigelow was really starting to shine. She's an amazing filmmaker, and Strange Days was no exception. Remember one of the reasons we all love cinema. It's escapism on an individual level just as much as it is a universal one. Strange Days evokes many different emotions to me. I hope everyone out there has a film or two that they at least consider to be one of their favorites. It's a special thing to have one film hit you in the right spots and keep entertaining you for decades. Okay everyone, thank you so much for watching our first episode of Chasers. This is Ben for Cinema Gulp. I feel privileged to be able to share my thoughts and my review with you guys on my birthday. As always, if you like this, please leave a comment down in the comment section below, and we would love to get suggestions on films from the past that you'd like to see us review here on Chasers. Please follow us on Twitter and follow us on Facebook at Cinema Gulp, and we'll see you next time. Drink that cinema.
Drink it.
Oh man, cheer up. Roll's gonna end in 10 minutes anyway.